am Melody Ann, your host, and today we're talking about how you can make your book sticky. Brain glue, of course. So we're talking about persuasion. Welcome to Author Nation Interviews. Unlock a wealth of resources at authornation.online. You can find a planning guide, you can find writing prompts, and even a book on how to decide how to get published. We are here to help you thrive and make your mark in the world of nonfiction. All right, grab a cup of your favorite beverage, find a cozy spot, and get ready to delve into the fascinating world of persuasion and the power of brain glue. My guest, James I. Bond, is one of America's leading behavioral management specialists and the author of the award-winning book, Brain Glue, How to Turn Simple Products and Slogans into Blockbusters of Persuasion by Making Your Ideas Sticky. For 13 years, he ran one of Southern California's leading behavioral management firms, working with a who's who of American business. Early in his career, he ran an advertising agency in Montreal. He is a workshop leader and past workshop chairman for the resource partner of the U.S. Business Administration, or I should say the U.S. Small Business Administration, pardon me, and has been a featured guest at 3 Southern California universities. Let's welcome James. Hello, James. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Hi, Melody. Thanks for having me.
I'm thrilled that you're here. Okay, so right off the bat, can you explain the concept of brain glue and how it can simplify our ability to persuade?
Yeah, well, so I have an advertising background. I'm from Montreal, as you said, Montreal.
Yes.
And but I live in Southern California. I've been here for 34 years. Actually, we named our middle daughter. We gave her the initials L.A., Lauren Asia, AJA. And so we'd remember, how long have you been here? Oh, yeah. How old's Lauren again? So that really helps. And I'm a very logical person. And I was faced with emotional selling. And I had no idea how to do emotional selling. It was like, do you remember the ad for anti-drug campaign? This is your brain. It shows an egg. And then cracks the shell and drops the egg into a sizzling frying pan. This is your brain on drugs. Any questions?
Yeah.
I had an opportunity to win. Yeah, and I had an opportunity to win that campaign, and we lost it. And when I saw who won, I knew he was 10 times better than what we had. We had logical reasons why you shouldn't do drugs. That was emotional selling, something I had no idea how to do. And so I created this thing called a passion box, where every time I saw, because I couldn't, school doesn't teach you how to do emotional selling. And so I created a passion box where every time I saw an incredible ad or heard a quote that was emotionally powerful, not logical, emotional, I put it in the box in the hopes that eventually I'd be able to, use all these examples to help me understand how to create emotional selling for myself and for my students. And so eventually, after we moved to California, I was at a convention and I was talking to John Gray, who wrote this the most incredible relationship book ever. He called it Men, Women, and Relationships, but it only sold a few thousand copies. So he was telling me how he got this crazy idea. What if I change the title to Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus, and then just tweak the content a little so so it's consistent with the title? Guess what happened? Instead of his books just sitting on the shelf, almost overnight, 500,000 books got sold, then 1 million, then 2 million, then 5 million. You know how many books he's got sold? More than 50 million books, not 50,000, 50 million books got sold, all because he changed the title. And so I freaked out and I went like, wow, so I wrote on a 3x5 card, as I do with lots of things that I was see were emotional, Men are from Mars, women are from Venus. And as I'm writing it suddenly strikes me, he used a metaphor. Men aren't really from a different planet. Like all you ladies out there, you might think we are. Maybe we are, but basically we're not really from a different planet. At least I don't think we are. But I suddenly realized, are metaphors the secret to emotional selling? Then when I got home, I dumped the passion box on my bed and quickly discovered that metaphors is one of 14 brain triggers at the heart of emotional selling. And you take a look at it like we're authors. And so we want a title, a description, an explanation that resonates so much that people go like, wow. I mean, think of Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. I remember I remember being in a bookstore. I'm looking at different books, and I go like, "Oh, Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus." What? I picked it up. By the way, you want someone to sell your book, the first thing they have to do is pick it up if you're in a store, okay? Or on Amazon, just start reading more and just checking it out. And so I picked it up and I looked at it and I was, oh wow, this is great, and I bought it. And he went from a few thousand to 50 million people buying his book. I've got like I think 3 copies of his book because we go to used bookstores. My wife says, "Hey, here's your book," But it made me realize that the power of emotional selling over logical selling, and all these triggers are so powerful, particularly for authors, for everybody. I talk about selling and persuasion, so I'm focusing on that because it applies to everything. But selling and persuasion starts with your book if you're trying to sell your book. And there are all these tools, and Blockbuster, as I started doing the research, I discovered one of the brain glue tools, and then I go, oh, wow. And over time, I started realizing, look, they're using it. He's using it. In fact, I have Jack Canfield, who wrote Chicken Soup for the Soul, which, by the way, sold 500 million books, okay? Talking about using an analogy or metaphor. And so he was telling me he sold 100 million Chicken Soup for the Soul and 400 million other chicken soup books, Chicken Soup for the Teenage Soul, Chicken Soup for the Cancer Survivor Soul, and everything. 500 million books. I mean, if you make $1 a book, that's pretty good money, It's actually, if you make half $1 a book, $0.25 a book. I mean, it's just, and so he started reading my book. I was very lucky because I got introduced to him, and he started reading my book, and he got mad at me. And I said, like, why are you mad at me? He said, well, I have so many books to read. I just picked up your book and started glancing at it, and I couldn't put the damn thing down. I said, I'm so sorry. Can I use that as a quote? He said, so here's the mistake I made, okay? My book was originally called Sell More with a Right Brain Marketing Strategy, which is left brain. Okay, yes. It's logic. And he said, you tortured us because you're telling us all to do right brain selling. You got a left brain title. You can have my quote on. I'll give you all kinds of quotes on condition that you change the damn title to, to brain glue, because the whole book's about brain glue. And I'm like, and Amazon, you want as many reviews as possible. I think I had 50 reviews for a book. They're all positive. And it's like I had to start from scratch again because Amazon doesn't let you, change the title of a book unless they force you to. There was actually a little thing, but it's very unusual. And so I was like, do I have to? He said, yes. You're torturing us. We're going to torture you. You have to go back. You have to, simplify what you're selling. And funny enough, my title, Sell More with the Right Brain Marketing Strategy, a lot of friends and people who know me who read the book and loved the book said that we're so glad you changed the title because I could never remember the title. That's the first thing.
Yes.
And the second one, I have a torture for this. My name is James Bond. So we couldn't look up author because we put up James Bond, and what do you get? 007 all the way for pages. Like I think I'm on page 37 of Amazon. Yep. If you look up James Bond, so that didn't work.
Yeah, exactly. And so you changed it to something that was sticky, right? Yes. And yes. Not only sticky, but if you think about Amazon and that tiny little thumbnail, if you have a long title, how can people read what it is in that tiny little? But if you just have 2 words, brain glue, you can make that stand out on that tiny little thumbnail, and it's sticky, and so people are more likely to go through. So there's a couple of reasons you want something sticky, and a couple of ways to do it. So you talked about 14 ways. So without getting into all 14 of them, because that's a lot, and we probably don't have time for that, but what are the key skills that we can develop to become brain glue experts in our own writing and our own communication? Because honestly, authors, their entire job is to persuade in their books. Nonfiction authors, we're talking.
So brain glue covers a lot of these tools, okay? And I want to say, let me start by giving you some examples of people who've used brain glue type tools, okay? If you're just writing a book, there are 2 things that you want, depending on the type of author you are, nonfiction author. The first thing is you want people to buy your book. But the second thing you want is to create a brand. Okay, I mean, I created brain glue, so I can have, other copies. Jack Canfield wrote Chicken Soup for the Soul, so he was able to come up with other Chicken Soup for the Soul books, okay? Chicken Soup for the Teenage Soul and all that stuff, okay? And so I was thinking about this, like, let me give you some examples of people that have used a brain glue type tool to turn their book into a blockbuster and a blockbuster brand. Okay. Freakonomics.
Yeah.
How many economics books can you have? And yet they have Freakonomics. It's like, what? It just gets your attention. It's a whole brand. They're on NPR radio. They've got, radio shows, and they've got books, and they've got classes, and they've got all this other stuff because the name Freakonomics sticks to the brain like glue. You hear Freakonomics and you go like, what? Economics this, economics 101, economics 3, Freakonomics, economics. Wait a second. Let's go back. What did we just say? It just sticks to the brain like glue. I love Martin Handford wrote a book, a children's book that we all probably know. In Britain, they called it Where's Wally? But here we call it Where's Waldo?
Yes.
Okay, you think if we called it Find My Person, Find My Hidden Person with the striped shirt? Anybody? No. Where's Waldo? It uses alliteration, the repetition of sounds. Like, what? Where's Waldo? That's cool. You start looking at where is Waldo? Okay, and it's he used this, and it triggered. It sticks to the brain. You go like, really cool. You don't have to. That's one of the things about brain glue tools. You can often say what it is once, and people will remember it. And it's like, so Jack and Jill went up the
hill, right?
Okay. Now, how long ago was the first time or the last time you heard that? It might have been 10, 20, maybe 50 years ago.
I'd have to tell you how old I was to tell you that.
No, don't tell me. I'm over that, so I'm old. Okay. But but the point is, yet we remember it like it was yesterday. I go through Humpty Dumpty sat on a wall. Humpty Dumpty had a great fall. All the king's horses, all the king's men couldn't put Humpty together again. The last time I heard that was like 60 years ago. I'm 71, so I'm old. Okay. But yet it sticks to the brain like glue. There are certain things, Johnny Cochran got O.J. Simpson freed from an almost certain guilty verdict in a murder trial with the help of a rhyme. If the glove don't fit, you must acquit. Combined with O.J., exaggerating that the glove didn't fit him, the murderer's glove. And so I remember after the trial, two of the jurors were saying, that were asked, with all that evidence against O.J., how come you let him go free? In their response, these two ladies, they said, hey, we knew if the glove don't fit, you must acquit. The glove didn't fit, so we had to acquit. And it just shows you that brain glue doesn't just sell products or books. It's so powerful, it can actually get someone freed from an almost certain guilty verdict in a murder trial. Like, that's how powerful it is. But if you think of like For Dummies, is that really the title of your book? They sold it for, I think, $50 million to a major, company. But the For Dummies books, who to think of coming up with For Dummies? But that's a brain glue tool. It's just people who remember Kurt Cobain. One of his most famous songs was "Smells Like Teen Spirit." Ew, what does Teen Spirit smell like? Is it a locker room
it's an image, right?
Exactly, and it triggers the senses. Okay, it's like plop, plop, fizz, fizz. Oh, what a relief it is! Alka-Seltzer. There's certain things that they recognize. They recognize this tool that if we can heighten the senses or throw a sense at them, they're not used to. Like sticky. I did it because it made sense emotionally for me. But it's sticky, we're talking about making your idea sticky, making your title sticky, so that people will say, they'll look and go, okay, really good, and they'll walk away and I go, wait a second, let me go back to that. What was that? And that's what we want, is we want people to be, I saw this book called, I'm going through Amazon and I see The Big Bad Book of Botany. And it's this alliteration. I'm going like, that's interesting. And I started looking at it. Then I realized I got so much to read and I'm not into botany that much. So, okay. But it got me hooked because it's The Big Bad Book of Botany. It's like, what? But it's just these are powerful tools. And the brain glue tools don't just work on the title and the description, but you definitely want them there first, because that's the first thing. People are going to see your cover, they're going to see your title, and they're going to read your description. So those are the first three places you have to get them, okay?
Yeah.
But inside the book, it's got to be powerful too. Like a lot of people don't realize, especially when you're writing a nonfiction book, the first thing you should always do when you're organizing the book and getting it ready is do a mind map. Do you know what a mind map is?
Yes, absolutely. Yep.
You draw a circle about the size of a dime in the middle of an 8.5 by 11 page, and then throughout the page you start listing. Just throw out ideas. What are all the ideas you want to include? Don't worry about the order or anything.
Yeah.
And then you draw a line. You connect them all to the center. Then what you do is now you can number them. You can also do sub things. If I'm going to talk about this, I want to talk about this, 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 and this. And you're going to, there are lots of ways to do this. Brain glue is really powerful for authors, by the way.
Yes.
When you number them, you say, okay, I should talk about this first, and then this second, and this third, and everything else. Yeah. So then you write the core of your book. But then after you finish your book, a lot of people make the mistake of trying to write the introduction first. Do not. No. The last thing you write, it has to be the introduction. It's like a speech. You always say, tell them what you're going to say, then tell them what you said. So the summary is at the end. And usually when you write the book, when you get to the summary, it's easy to write the summary. Then you go back and you write your introduction. And your introduction should be, pick some of the best things that will go on throughout the book, And so when people are going to read the introduction, it's almost like they get a short version of your book. So you're telling them, hey, I'm going to talk about this. And by the way, this happens. Throw them a few curves and stuff like that. And then it's like suddenly it makes the book much more exciting because they already have an expectation of what to expect from your introduction. In fact, in my introduction, I start with technical in the first page. And on the second page, it says something else. I don't want to share that. But it also has the headline and explains this. My 4-year-old daughter didn't want to have sex with the boy next door.
What?
That's exactly. And people read it and they think like, what? But as you read it, you go, oh, this is profound. It's really a profound thing that sets up the whole book. But that's what you want, is you want to recognize also, you have to catch them early because, people's attention span goes away. I have a TED Talk coming up. TED Talks used to be like 18 minutes. They've shortened them to 8 to 12 minutes. Yes. Why? Because of TikTok and all these other things. I mean, people don't have the attention to listen to something that's 20 minutes long. And so we have to recognize that with reading, it's the same thing. You're going to get them with the cover, then the title, then the description. Then they're going to start reading the book. And in the beginning of the book, particularly in your introduction, you've got to zing them. You've got to zing them so much they go like, oh wow, I got to read this, And it's almost like an ad for your book is basically what it is. It's like, movies. They have a movie and they show you an ad for the movie, like just a quick overview of the movie. Well, your introduction of your book, if it's like that, there are 2 secrets to that. That's the first one. You got to make sure that the introduction zings them enough that they're hooked and they go, oh, I got to read this thing. I can't wait to go through this. Okay. Then the second thing is write for a narrator, but not a narrator, an actor. Okay. So write your book. This is what I did. Okay. Because I had a son, my son's 42 now. So I'm old, like I said, but when he was between the ages of 8 and 14, he was an actor in a ton of movies and TV shows. Okay. And I learned the power of this. And somebody who was teaching screenwriting, because I did some screenwriting classes, who won an Academy Award for a screenwriting that he did, said, you always want to think of for screenwriting, you always want to think of a famous person who's going to be the actor in your book, the main actor, and you want to write it for that person. So imagine them saying it, okay? Well, when you're writing a book, particularly a nonfiction book, I believe this, and I've helped a lot of people do this, and it's blown their minds, but it really improves the book, is write your book. Then go back and imagine somebody famous or an actor reading your book, and then change the book so that it's as if they're talking to it. Because now you're going to be talking to them, A, and B, you might actually create an audiobook, which I did. I got this fantastic narrator, this guy, Johnny Unitas. He's hilarious, and he's really good. But what he said, which is what you want, is he said, yours is one of the most fun books I've ever had to narrate because it was natural. Like, I'll give you an example. I do a lot of work with the U.S. Small Business Administration where I do volunteer work, sometimes audiences of 300-500 people, sometimes, 20, 30 people. And you want to imagine that you're talking to somebody. So I'll give you an example. If there's something called redintegration, not reintegration, but redintegration. The reason I'm saying that is because I thought redintegration. I just talked about redintegration. And so I had people in my class that say, you mean reintegration? And I would go, no, redintegration. It sounds like reintegration, but it's not. Okay. And they go, oh. So in my book, I'm realizing I said, And I'm talking about redintegration. I said, not reintegration, but redintegration. I wrote that in the book because that's how I would say it to somebody if I'm talking to them. So when people are reading through the book, it's easy because they feel like I'm talking to them. I'm chatting with them. And I think when you do that, I start realizing, like, when you think of it that way, I'd start writing, I look at one of the chapters of my book and I'm like, this is getting boring. It's like so long. I got to stop and put a joke in here, And jokes are good, by the way. Jokes trigger oxytocin, which makes people much more receptive and positive and everything. In fact, I have so many jokes in the book. It's hilarious. So I think it's hilarious. But a lot of people do too. But it's like, interrupt it with a joke, interrupt it with a story, but give you an example.
And it's such a good point, because books, and if I remember the stat properly, most books readers get to about 30% and then they abandon the book. Yeah. And so, you're talking about brain glue, and we get it. Like, yes, my title, that has to be like catchy. But if chapter 5 isn't catchy, they're not going to read the rest of the book. And so not only do we need the title to be catchy, we need the chapter headings to be catchy, the headings to be catchy. We need a hook at the beginning of each chapter. We need, there are all these pieces. And what it sounds like to me is you integrated alliteration and jokes and stories and using your senses and metaphors and imagery in the book. Yep. So that people keep reading it. Is that right?
Absolutely. And so famous people use this. Okay. And by the way, authors are often going to be speakers too. So you want to learn the tools of brain glue because you're going to be speaking. So I'll give you 2 powerful tools. One, so people love Warren Buffett because he has great lines. One of his greatest lines is, and it's like, finance, is that exciting? But Warren Buffett is hilarious. He says, only when the tide goes out do you realize who's been swimming naked.
Right.
Isn't that a great line? What he's basically saying is, only when times get tough do you realize who's competent, okay? Yeah. But if you say that, people kind of go, okay, whatever. But when you say in a way like this, as particularly with humor, but it's profound. It's profound. It's a profound analogy. It's like, only when the tide goes out do you recognize who's been swimming naked. That's very interesting. And that's true. Hopefully it wasn't me anyway, but but there are lots of, so I have chiasmus is the opposite of rhyme. Rhyme is one of the powerful tools. As Johnny Cochran even got O.J. Simpson off with the help of rhyme. Okay. Right. So rhyme can be really powerful. But chiasmus is the opposite of rhyme. So rhyme is A, B, A, B. Chiasmus is A, B, B, A, like it flips. Okay. And I'll give you an example. Winners never quit. And quitters never win. Okay. Yes. Only when going that's tough do the tough get going. Okay. Those are flip. I'm old enough to remember President John F. Kennedy saying, ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country. He also said, mankind must put an end to war, or war will put an end to mankind. Malcolm X said, we didn't land up, he's a black activist, and he was phenomenal, but he loved chiasmus. He said, we didn't land on Plymouth Rock, the rock landed on us.
Right.
Oh, interesting. He also said, when you stand for nothing, you'll fall for anything.
Yes.
And these are powerful. Albert Einstein said, you can't fix yourself by breaking someone else.
Yeah, love it. These are fabulous.
Like that, when everybody goes right, go left.
Yeah.
Here's Frederick Douglass, who was a civil rights activist in an early civil rights activist. It's easier to build strong children than to repair broken men.
Oh, I love that one. Who said that one?
Frederick Douglass.
Love that.
The famous, a civil rights activist from the early days. But
that's such a powerful statement.
When we could say a quote, one of the quotes I say is, I got 3 quotes actually that I use for brain glue. Switch your pitch if you want to get rich. Okay, there's one.
Love it.
Second one is, if you want to light the fire of desire in your buyer.
Oh, lovely. Okay, nice.
Then I went to ChatGPT because you got to experiment with it, and most of them are horrible examples. I threw a bunch of things and said, give me a quick quote, but it gave me a pretty good one. It said, why brain glue? Because plain glue doesn't stick to the brain. I thought, that's cool. I like that one.
Nice. And that's a good use for AI as well, right? To help you come up with ideas and then you can refine them as you go.
Absolutely. I mean, don't take everything as Chat GPT and AI is like, it's got stupid things in it.
Oh, it's
by the way,
absolutely
when
flawed.
you use it, always when they give you an answer in Chat GPT, say make it more conversational, and it gives you some really interesting different twists on it.
Yeah.
But it still doesn't have a good sense of humor. What can I say?
I tried to get it to match my sense of humor. I tried really hard one day. I'm like, wait, let's see if ChatGPT can be funny, and kind of in my style. Couldn't do it. Just couldn't do it. So either I'm not funny or it's not funny. Not sure which one.
Yeah,
All right.
it's not funny. Let me tell you.
Exactly.
So Chiasmus. So I love Mae West was really famous. Okay, in the early days of the movie industry, she was actually phenomenal. I've never seen a movie on Mae West, but she was. There should be a movie. She was a leader in. In fact, she would actually get into a movie, and she had famous people that she discovered, like anyway, but like Cary Grant, for example. She discovered Cary Grant. Yeah. I mean, it was just amazing. And she had this one clause that she would be in a movie that somebody else wrote the screenplay for, and she was allowed to write her own little things. Okay. And let me give you an example. Why? Because she loved chiasmus. Okay. To flip. She says it's better to be looked over than overlooked.
Okay. That sounds so Mae West.
Yeah, it is. The women like a man with a past, but they prefer a man with a present. Okay. When women go wrong, men go right after them. She says, good girls go to heaven, bad girls go everywhere. And my favorite, but hopefully I'm not crossing a line with you here, but she says, a hard man is good to find. She was hilarious. She wrote a play called Sex in the early days, okay? Yeah. And the police and everybody said, you can't be doing that because there are things inside it that you can't be doing. So if you continue running the play, we're going to arrest you. She said, oh, please do. And they went, you want to be arrested? Yeah. Because it'll make me more famous.
Absolutely.
Like, Mae West was really incredible.
Oh, she was an incredible woman. All right. If you're interested in brain glue, and at this point, I think everyone is, you can learn more at braingluepage.com. So grab your copy of Brain Glue. There are 14 ways to make your ideas sticky in the book, and you want to know all 14. We've talked about a lot of them: analogies, metaphors, imagery, using the senses, rhyme,
alliteration, the big bang, botany.
Yeah, we've talked about so many here, and we've done some brilliant examples. So get a copy of the book. So where can people get a hold of you, James, if they're interested in kind of connecting with you?
Oh, they're not going to arrest me. Hey, they can get a hold of me there. Hey, we got
it. No arrests.
Well, the easiest way is just check out the book. And Brain Glue page is really good because it'll take you to the summary of it. If you wanted to go past that, you can actually go to braingluebook.com. That'll take you directly to Amazon, so you can see it. But I think, it's so much fun sharing it. And I think people are loving the book because I didn't invent Brain Glue. I invented the word Brain Glue. But Brain Glue's been around forever. I mean, I think, even thousands of years ago, we have quotes that we use today that came from thousands of years ago or 1,000 years ago but it was so profound because they used chiasmus or something like that. When you go like, you have to, it's just great. So.
Exactly. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. I really appreciate it. I love your stories. I loved your examples. This was a lot of fun, James. Thank you so much.
Oh, Melody, you're very welcome. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And thank you for joining us today on Author Nation Interviews. We hope you found the conversation with James on Brain Glue enlightening and thought-provoking and fun. So don't forget to visit authornation.community so you can find your people. We give writing advice, marketing advice, and it's a community. So you get community support. Join the conversation and connect with fellow nonfiction authors who share your passion and your drive. And we value your feedback and your support. So if you enjoyed this episode, please take a moment to leave us a comment or a review and share it with someone who will find it valuable. Keep writing, keep creating, and keep sharing your stories with the world.